בשעה טובה ומוצלחת. We continue, we are pasuk Vav, right? Yes, pasuk Vav. Pasuk Vav. צדקת ישרים תצילם. The righteousness of the yashar, of the straight people, right, saves them. ובהבת בוגדים ילכדו. But the breaking, the behavat, we're going to see that the havat is milashon shvira, right? The break of the bogdim, ilakedu, will trap them. In English, they want to say the treacheries.
What's the proper way to translate boged?
Boged is a traitor.
Not faithless.
Huh?
Faithless.
No, a boged is a traitor. It's someone that basically takes advantage of the trust you give him and hurts you at the end. That's a boged.
Deceitful.
Deceitful. So the Gaon says like this: Tzidkat yesharim tatzilem, right? The righteousness of the yashar, of the straight individual, saves them. He says, who is the yashar? What's the definition of the yashar, as we've mentioned it a few times? Is the person that lives his life through the analysis of his intellect. He always uses his mind. He evaluates his midot, his behavior, always based on his mind, on his intellect. And he doesn't deviate from the Torah. Everything he analyzes. Sechel. Says somebody that only relies on his sechel, he can easily fall from the path of the Torah. Why? Because he's so relying on his mind, and the mind is not always straight and accurate. That he can fall. So he's playing in a dangerous arena when you only use your sechel. However, the tzidkato, the fact that he does mitzvot, Torah, right, and he's engaged and invested in avodat Hashem, omedat alav, is protecting him from what? From being trapped. ובהבת בוגדים ילכדו. The definition of the boged, says the Gaon, is exactly the opposite of the yashar. That they also are intellects, they also use their sechel, but they use their sechel to go against Hashem, to outsmart the system. They find always a reason why not to do mitzvot. They use their analysis to always question. He says the boged is a very sophisticated individual. He's a person that through his intellect knows how to control his emotions and his midot. But because he doesn't have the Torah and he's not engaged in mitzvot, his mind starts becoming his own enemy. And he will end up being trapped in his own behavior and in his own outlook of life. And he says this is what the word havad, lashon havad, milashon shvira. Like the pasuk says, haval havatavo in Yehezkel, that the breaking on another breaking will come. Yes, then.
In the first part of the pasuk, when it talks about the tzidkat yeshar, when it talks about the tzidkat yesharim,
Yes.
We're talking about just a smart guy who's sophisticated and relies on his intellect, but follows Torah at the end of the day.
That's right.
Is this different than a tzaddik? It makes it sound like it's different than a regular righteous person, or is this defining a righteous person?
No, you can have tzidkut that comes from the tmimut, okay, or from the sechel.
So the key word is
for example,
yesharim.
pasuk he,
Right.
tzidkat tamim tiyasher darko.
Right.
So the tzaddik is the one that follows the path of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and is not deviating from the mitzvah, but he's doing it from an intellectual perspective, versus the tamim that will also follow the Torah and the mitzvot. It doesn't ask any questions. So one does it through a sophisticated intellectual analysis. That's the yashar, versus the tam that does it through tmimut, without any question. Whatever I'm told, I do.
But he's still intellectual and he's still very sharp.
No, the tam, no.
So who do we want to be?
We want to be both. We said that, we read that in the beginning, that you need, even though you have the sechel, but you need the tmimut as a as an insurance policy and protection.
So this is explaining two sides of the equation. You
have to use your sechel as much as you can. But when you don't understand, or when your sechel is not, is limited, because you're intellectual, you might start, thinking your way out of the obligation and the responsibility of a mitzvah. That's when the tmimut comes in. For example, when you go and you analyze the situation, when you need da'at Torah, yeah, and you go to a gadol and the gadol tells you something and you don't understand it. That's when the tmimut comes in. Tamim ti'im Hashem Elokecha. Yeah, we learned that. Yes. Here now we're talking about how each one independently, each trait independently has its own segula. So the yashar is saved, right, from the trap of the yetzer hara, of the sechel, of the boged, and the tam goes in a straight way and does not fall. Right? So the yashar is saved from the trap of the yetzer hara, and the tam is protected from falling from the yetzer hara. That's the difference, and we're going to address it right.
Okay.
Good. We're good.
Yes, well, I guess we're going to see the nafkamina between the two, like you said, we're going to see the difference between. Okay.
So he says like this. He says, if you pay attention, by the tam, we're talking about falling, and by the yashar, we're talking about being ilakedu, right? See the difference between the pasuk he and pasuk vav. So he explains and he says the following. He says the tam, he goes straight, right? The tam doesn't overthink things, doesn't analyze things. Whatever he's told, he does. So the only way he can fall is if there is something, if there's an ambush in front of him that he will not see because he doesn't analyze. So that's what it means, Yipol. However, says the Gaon, when you use your sechel, he says like this. השכל קרוב מאוד לרשת היצר הרע. The sechel, the intellect, is very close to the net of the yetzer hara. Because when you use your sechel, you use logic. But based on what? Based on your ability of your own logic. But your logic might not be refined, right? So if your logic is not refined, you may think that you're logical and things make sense, but in reality, they don't. So says the Gaon, when you only rely on your sechel, you dance with the yetzer hara all the time because you don't know your limits of your own sechel. And that's why you can fall.
Can you repeat that last line again, please?
When you use your intellect and your sechel, you don't know your own limits, right? So you don't, when you analyze a situation, you really never know how logical it really is, because you don't know your own limits of your intellect. So the yetzer hara is waiting for you where the nefilah, the failure is where it belongs exactly at the limits of your intellect, of how sharp your analysis is and how accurate your analysis is.
So what needs to be incorporated into it?
That's called Da'at Torah. That's called Da'at Torah. That's called Limud Torah. Right? The more you have Da'at Torah, the more you learn Torah, and the sharper you become, and the more accurate your analysis becomes. So says the Gaon, but it doesn't matter how much sechel you have. At the end, you always have to be careful because the sechel has its own limits. And because you use your sechel to behave and interact, by default, you already include the involvement of the yetzer hara. It's just, will you open the door or not? And the Gaon says the yetzer hara traps you. Why? Why is the yetzer hara a trap to the yashar, to the intellectual? Because just like a trap, you don't see it. Your limits of your intellect, you don't know. And maybe you trespassed your level of analysis, and now you're walking, thinking that you're working on a solid ground, but in reality, there's a trap. This is the danger of living only through your intellect, your life. However, says Shlomo HaMelech, no worries. As long as you're engaged in Torah, as long as you're engaged with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in mitzvot, and you learn Torah itself, then there is a segula, there is a level of protection that the Torah, the tzidkut of the Yashar protects him. Right? So pay attention to the difference between the two psukim. By the time it says tzidkat tam teyasher ochotav, right? Teyasher darko. It will straighten his path. It does not make any allusion to a danger. All it says it makes the tzidkut of the tam makes his path straight, but it doesn't insinuate a danger. Whereby the yashar, it says what? Tzidkat yashar, tzidkat yesharim tatzilem. It will save them. Save them obviously from something not good. Meaning that when you use only your sechel, you're exposed automatically to the danger of the Yetzer Hara in your intellect. The only way to protect yourself from it, forget about the segula of protection of being a tzaddik, right? Is to always refer to Da'at Torah, and to have the humility to refer to Da'at Torah, and say, listen, this is my analysis on the situation. Now, obviously, we're talking about the big decisions. We're not talking on the mundane day-to-day. Yeah, but when there's a decision that needs to be made, and you analyze the situation, it's always good to go and ask Da'at Torah, listen, this is my analysis. Okay, how do you look at it? These are all the facts. These are the parameters. What do you recommend? That the Baal Da'at Torah, the Chachamim, they will come and they will look at things in different ways, right? And they might bring reasons why to do this. This is I think I lost you. I said this is the way to protect yourself from your own limits, of the limits of your intellect, right? And its danger. It's to have anava and to go and ask for Da'at Torah. That doesn't express any flaws or inability in your assessment. It's just a way. It's a sounding board, right? To see if your analysis is aligned with Da'at Torah.
Then,
Yeah.
Rabbi, when you check yourself with Da'at Torah and the Chacham tells you you're making a mistake, that's when you put your head down and you tamim and you go and you say, okay, fine.
So you wanna understand it. You want to try to understand it. But if you don't understand and the Chacham is very clear, yes, that's when the Tmimun kicks in. That's part of your Ishtadlut. But besides that, you have the aura of the Segulat Tzidkut of Torah and Mitzvot that shines and protects as a shield of protection the Yashar from mistakes. By the time he doesn't say that, by the time He's not exposed to that danger because the Tam doesn't ask any questions. The Tam only does what he's told to. So the only way the Tam can actually fail, and he can fail also, is if he's told, he's put on a path that has in it michsholim, that has in it bumps that he's not going to see, and he will not see them because he doesn't use his sechel. Good. Pasuk Zayin.
One question.
Yes, yes.
The intellect and the imagination, the imagination could be that when it
Yes.
gets twisty.
Yes, absolutely.
So you don't know if you are logical or
imaginating, yes, because the imagination, like very well, because the imagination, says the Rambam, right? The imagination is the Yetzer Hara. So when you infuse imagination in your logic, that's when it becomes dangerous.
you don't know.
And you don't know, you're not aware because you're
You're thinking logically.
logical, exactly.
Wow.
It's a very good point that you're raising, meaning to try at least, yes, to assess your own analysis. Try to always ask yourself what is factual and what is imagination. Where do I extrapolate and where am I be'emet looking at the facts the way they are? Right? That helps you also a lot understanding the parameters and the limits. Because the Yetzer Hara, he camouflages himself and enters the thought process and the analysis process, through a facet of logic, when in reality it's all a bua gdola, it's a big bluff. במות אדם רשע תאבד תקווה. At the death of a rasha, his hope, tovad, they disappear, they are lost, they're doomed. ותוחלת אונים avada, and the ambition of the rasha, of the evil, onim, avada, they're avud, they're inexistent. So if recall, we've addressed also already the difference between tikva and between tochelet, between meyahel. Tikva is short term, meyahel is long term. So he says, the rasha, the wicked, says his nature, all his life, he is in love with what? With tikva. That he wants the immediate outcome. So he hopes, right? He does something, the short term, he's expecting all the time short term outcomes that should be good for him. But when he lives this world, that tikva didn't yield anything for him, because he was always living his life with the short-term outlook, expecting what's going to be next. But when he's gone, when he leaves this world, that tikva, that hope, did not yield anything for him. So that the tikva itself is lost. And even his tohelet, even his 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 ambition, right, for the future, for the long term. Says Tohelet Onim is the ambition for. He says Onim is referring to the kids, the long term. It's like all the efforts that he invested for the next generation, all the time that he has is put, and the work good not only in him but also for his kids. Avada, even that ambition disappears. Meaning that all the efforts and all the investments that even the children themselves are looking forward to. Once the Rasha is gone, also all that that investment, all that effort is also will disappear.
What a hidush is that? Of course, he dies, it goes with him.
Yes, but you would think that it stays like this. The tikva is because that all these efforts didn't yield anything after life. But the tochelet, right? You may think that okay, him it doesn't benefit, but it benefits the kids after him. He's gone, nachon. But what about the children? All that effort, says Shlomo HaMelech, that the children are looking forward to benefits, it's also going to disappear. En bo mamash.
Rabbi, what are the kids looking forward to? Because I think I'm stuck.
Enjoy the effort of the father.
But the father was living in the now. He wasn't focused on the future.
But no, so he says both. So he was living for immediate benefits now, but so he says even if he had the tocheret, even if he was thinking about the future, and what was that future looking looking like to him, to make sure that he secures his kids and his kids will benefit, etc., etc. Even that aspect of projection in the future, even that is not going to last. I mean, there's no beracha that is kept moving forward.
Maybe he made money and saved it in the short-term actions. Does that mean whatever he did, whatever was gotten in the short term, in the hopes and the tikva, is also gone?
The short term doesn't benefit when he dies. Adam Adam. When he dies, all that is not going to help him. That short term outlook of life, that doesn't give him anything at death. But maybe you're going to tell me, but what he projected for the future for his children, at least he has
Through his short-term efforts.
through his short-term efforts. Even that, avada, it will go to waste. It will go to waste. So the Gaon, comment le Tikkun HaZohar, please. See. In Tikkun HaZohar, attention, says the following. He says like this. He says, the Tikkun HaZohar says like this. That a person has 3 chances to fix his wrongdoings. He can come 3 times to in the world, in 3 Gilgulim, not in 4. Okay, meaning a person can only come 3 times to fix himself. And the Zohar explained. He says the first time he comes in bekoach HaChesed. And he gives an example like someone riding a white horse. Meaning the first time the person comes in this world to fix what needs to be fixed, because everybody comes to this world with a purpose since the Chet of Adam HaRishon, right? So we have to fix what has been distorted at the time of the Chet of Adam HaRishon. First time he comes with Chasadim. Everything comes and is set for him to be able to really finish the tikkun. Just like somebody riding, right, a white horse, a beautiful white horse. If, says the Zohar, he was not successful to complete his tikkun, he will come a second time. But that time he's coming b'midat ha'gevura. He's coming through judgment. Like somebody riding a red horse, says the Tikkun HaZohar. If this doesn't work, he comes back a third time. And this time, it's as if he's riding a green horse, which is keneged midat hatiferet. And the Gaon explains there. He says like this, what is this the green horse? He wants to say that at that point there's hester panim. You don't have no clarity. Because it's not the panim of the tiferet, it's the back of the tiferet. So you come back where you have equilibrium, you have choices, but the choices are so close that you don't have clarity. So every choice that you make is confusion. Just like the tiferet is the balance between the chesed and the gvura. For example, you see people, lo alenu, everything they touch is bad. And they get slapped and slapped and slapped and slapped. They don't have no breaks. They're living a life of dinim. Says the Gaon Mivina, then that person can know that he's in this second Gilgul. When everything is smooth, so everything you touch goes, then you know you're in the first Gilgul. But when everything is a challenge and nothing is clear, and every decision I need to make, I'm like confused, then you know this is the last run. There's not going to be a fourth one. Like he says, Al Shlosha Pish'ei Israel ve'al arba'a lo ashivenu. On Al Shlosha Pish'ei Israel, on the 3 Psha'im Averot of Israel, no problem, you come back. Al Revi'i lo ashivenu, I will not send you a fourth time.
What happens if in the fourth
נגמר.
you stay?
נגמר. Without any תיקון לעול מעד. Forever.
Kafakala.
Worse. It's worse
Oh,
because kafakela, you can wait. Somebody can actually take you out. Here, nobody can fix it. It's finished.
Rabbi, in the case of the riding the red horse, midat hagivura, what's the sign of that, and what does that mean? So chesed, we saw everything is smooth.
When somebody doesn't have a break, everything is a problem. Everything he just gets hit right and left. You see that he lives. Everything is midat adin with him. כל מה שהוא נוגע זה מידת הדין, לא עלינו.
Can someone go through these different stages in their own personal life while they're alive, or that's no such a thing? Those are just different. That's just different. Sometimes someone could feel things are easy. Sometimes things are very difficult.
No, I hear what you're saying. No, usually when there's a gilgul, there's a gilgul. אלא אם כן, there's a ibur neshamat, which is something else, but we're not going to talk about it. But a person comes, we are one of the three gilgulim. Now, the Ari Kadosh, Rabbi Chaim Vital writes that today, yes, it's already from their time, we entered the section of the third Gilgul. Okay? Not everybody must be a third Gilgul, but the majority are in the third Gilgul. I'll give you an example. You have some neshamot that we don't understand, yeah, that leave us, those children. Okay, they live the light of Chesed. They live the life of Chesed. Their life was kulo chasadim, Baruch Hashem, right? So you can say that these are neshamot that came to this world, did their tikkun ve'alchu bechesed. Sometimes you have neshamot that come from this one, and from the day they are born, they suffer. Then you know that's the second Gilgul. But the majority, which live somewhat what we call a normal life, have somewhat of normalcy in their life, they're confronted to challenges all the time of decisions, doubts. The hester pain, they don't have the clarity, they just don't have it. This is the third Gilgul. So says the Gaon, back to our pasuk, this is the sword of Adam, Rasha, Bemot, Adam, Rasha. He said that pasuk, Adam, ze chesed. Rasha, ze gvura. Tovad, lost, that's the Tiferet, that's the Hester Panim. Says Shlomo HaMelech is referring here to the three Gilgulim.
Tiferet is what, Rabbi?
Toved. Toved is the Hester Panim. Is the back of the Tiferet, meaning Tiferet is the balance between the Chesed and the Gevurah, right? And when they are both equal, and you need to make a decision, it's always complicated. So he says, Bemot, when there is the death of Adam, Rasha, Toved, so there's no more tikva, finished. There's no more hope. Toved tikva, meaning there's nothing to look forward to. Ken? Good? One more pasuk. Tzaddik mitzara nehlatz. The tzaddik is saved from the tzara, yeah, from a pain. Vayavo rasha tachtav, and the rasha come instead of it, instead of the tzaddik. Says the Gaon the following: the tzaddik, afal pi sheba alav tzara, even though he's facing a challenge and a painful situation, at the end he will be saved from that situation one way or another. But what happens that is that same tzara that was on the tzaddik and that left the tzaddik will now go on the rasha, and the rasha will take the place of the tzaddik. Meaning, when you see a tzaddik suffering, you may think, "Wow, Hazid, misken, look what he's suffering. He's suffering." Nachon, but that tzara essentially will end up hitting a rasha. That same tzara. And he says, he brings an example. He says, the same people that were malshin on Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, right? Like it says in Daniel, they will end up being exactly back on who? On Haman. So this concept is very, very deep, huh? This concept, because we think that the tzara that is understanding is specific to the tzaddik, but in reality, it's a moment. It's like a cloud that is for a moment on top of the tzaddik, but is on its way to the rasha. So never look at the behavior at what happened on the tzaddik and think that it's specific only to him. No, it's that energy, that tzara, that pain is on its way somewhere else to come and reside and finally on the rasha. How does that apply? Sometimes in the community you see lo aleinu tzaddikim suffering. And people look at the tzaddikim suffering, they say, "Oh, again, that look what he's going through." But in reality, that same pain is on its way to the reshaim of the community, to end up striking there. So essentially, the tzaddik that is suffering is an alarm for the rest of the community to introspect their effort, their behavior, and do teshuvah before this ends up coming and striking on the reshaim. So it's almost like a warning for the rasha to do teshuvah before it comes and hits him. Be'ezrat Hashem. We did pasuk. We just finished pasuk chet. Shah tova.
Rabbi, by the way, it's very interesting. The last pasuk was I think the second pasuk since we started the second sefer of Mishlei, it didn't have the juxtaposition.
Nachon.
And didn't have it, and then I don't understand what's the chidush here of the Gaon, because the pasuk, unless he's the chidush is that the cloud of suffering is going to come to the rasha.
But yeah, you would think that it stops by the tzaddik. No, that same tzara is on its way to the tzaddik also.
But getting practical for a second to like life application. So I'm trying to do with this sefer of Mishlei. Like, how do we know who and what and
you don't. But when
the tzaddik, But Sadiq knows, okay, it's not for me. This is not me. I need to deal with this. It's gonna
But
lead.
not only the tzaddik knows, the person that sees the tzaddik in a community, in an environment, in a surrounding, going through a certain challenge,
Okay.
right? Okay, you would think that it's specific to him, but that challenge in reality is only passing through and
You
coming.
don't know-
What?
You don't know who it's targeted to, though.
You don't know, but you have to look at yourself and leachmir and say, well, maybe there's a side of Rasha that's in me that I need to fix right away, and do tshuva on it, because the Rasha that doesn't do tshuva is going to get hit with it. Who specifically, we don't know. If we knew, it would be too easy. But what you learn from it is that by seeing the tzaddik being challenged, it's a reminder and an opportunity for you to do teshuvah. Be'ezrat Hashem. Yes. We can't hear you.
Continuing with the technical point of view,
Yes.
tzaddik, we know that there are like at least I think I know 40 in the world, so it's very difficult to be a
36.
tzaddik.
No,
26, okay.
there are 36 tzaddikim hidden,
Ah,
but there's much more than that are not hidden. But there are 30 pillars, just like pillars you don't see, they're inside the ground. You have 36 tzaddikim that hold the world, that are completely hidden. So, yeah.
Where do we learn that concept?
The Lamed 5 tzaddikim. Where do we learn it from, you mean? Well, that's for another time, because it's not, I can give you a show on that.
from
It's-
Usher
it's-
movie, from the movie of Usher.
well, yeah, exactly, the movie of Lamed 5 tzaddikim. Okay.
I'd love to hear it.
בעזרת השם.
Thank you.
בשורות טובות, בהצלחה, יום נפלא ומבורך בעזרת השם.
Amen.
Good to see you,
Amen,
מתן.
amen.
Bye.